What was the other thing I was going to say? Yeah. Uh-oh.
Hey everybody, welcome to Retired Renovators. This is episode 11. Welcome back to the channel, and if you're brand new, hope after watching the video you'll think about subscribing. So today I'm going to tell you the secret for how to do insulation quickly. For those of you all who have been a part of this channel so far, you know that my husband Gary and I are doing all of the renovation work ourselves, and it's taking an incredibly long time because, you know, we're old, retired, and it just takes us a long time. And we just finished electrical, and then the next step was moving on to insulation. And that part worked fantastically well. And the reason why, subbed it out and had someone else do it. So we're doing almost everything ourselves. We talked about at the beginning of our channel that we hired someone to do some foundation work, and this is the other thing we had to hire out. So fantastic, 3 days and they were done. Love it. So I'm standing in the kitchen now, and you see that we have two different kinds of insulation. This is the open cell insulation, and here is the soundproof insulation blocking off the bathroom. And so I'm going to ask Gary to talk a little bit about the specifics on why we chose open cell insulation for the Carriage house.
So we had two issues when we talked about insulation for this house. One is effectiveness. Another is that this house has no ventilation in the attic. In other words, there's no airflow that goes up and across the attic and then out the peak. It's totally closed off. And the soffits out here are totally closed off. There are no vents at all. So the problem was it's way too difficult to try and retrofit that, to put in some vents there and to do it at the peak and to get enough airflow going around. So the obvious solution was to convert from a vented ceiling, but instead think about an unvented attic. And so the best way to do that is with cell foam. And the idea is that the whole envelope goes from the walls and up over the ceiling into the roof, and it's all encapsulated. It's one big room that gets insulated, and the air is conditioned in that. That way you don't have to have any airflow up through the attic, and it stays cool up there in the summer and warmer in the winter. So the cell foam did another thing for us too, is to seal all the leaks. And as you've seen and can imagine, in a brick house, and this is a structural brick house, not a brick veneer, there are leaks everywhere. Through the brick, there's 3 layers of brick. Sometimes there's 2 layers of brick, gaps between, and brick itself has a lot of gaps in it. It's porous. And so cell foam was the ideal solution to both seal the brick and also to insulate the house. So we, in one effort, we got both things done. There's no way you could stay sane and try and seal this house using great stuff, cans of foam or caulk or things like that. There's just too much. And the cell foam does it all in one shot. So that seemed like a no-brainer. Now, there are two kinds of cell foam. There's open cell and closed cell. We went with the open cell for 2 reasons. One is that it is more environmentally responsible. Closed cell foam in its production is a terrible global warming, gas, ozone depleting kind of thing, and is really environmentally irresponsible to use it. But the open cell is much, much better. It's more on the same as, like a carbon offset. It's same as carbon dioxide, basically. So environmentally. Second reason was that the local insulator who uses cell foam. He specializes in the open cell, and so it was what was available. And another consideration is that the open cell foam is non-toxic as far as breathing and so on. So we could come in to this house. I asked him, the contractor said, well, I assume we're going to be out of the house for a few days so that the stuff can dry and the smell can dissipate. He said, no, you can go in there an hour later, because it really doesn't have those same VOCs, volatile organic compounds, that the closed cell does. So it's just easier on the earth, easier on us, and was the obvious solution for us.
So another thing about the insulation between the open cell and the closed cell is the climate that you're living in. And we did a lot of research about this, and I've read a lot. I'm a former professor, so I like to look at data and read everything I can about things. And it seems like sort of the consensus was, besides the environmental issues that Gary mentioned, up in the northern climates, it would be typical to use closed cell. In the lower southern climates, it would be typical to use open cell. Here we are in Paducah, Kentucky. We don't know what we are. Is it south or north? It's like kind of right in between. But because of the issues that Gary talked about, it seemed like that was a no-brainer for us. The other thing about these brick houses, this triple layer brick construction, is that those bricks have to breathe all the way through. And there's a lot of controversy about how to make your house insulated and still let the bricks breathe. And so we thought open cell would be the solution to that. It was kind of hard to figure all that out, and we're not totally confident that we understand it all correctly, but we made the best guess that we can. Another thing to look at is, here's our lovely fireplace, and you can see we closed it all up. And so this was an issue of, we're trying to insulate the house. If you have a leaky fireplace like this, you're clearly not insulating. And we looked at the issues of how we were going to make it insulated, but also be able to use it. This is not a workable fireplace any longer, and we talked about decorating and all sorts of things. And finally we said, let's just get on with it, close the thing up, and pretend it wasn't there. So it was a little bit sad, but that's what we did. Took a ton of foam to clean it all up, but it looks funny now. You'll never notice it's there when we get done with it. So all in all, we were really pleased with the group that did this insulation. They're called Air-Tite out of Paducah. We worked with the representative, Jeff, who was extremely helpful. And Gary had talked with him really for months, actually more than a year, about our plans. And he was always responsive. And then when we were ready to go, they were able to get right on it. So we thought all that was really great. To do the insulation for the upstairs apartment, the open cell and this soundproofing insulation and the ceiling insulation, and then down in the workshop, all of the open cell there, as well as the ceiling soundproofing insulation, was $6,900, and we thought that was really well represented for what we got. I should warn you, if you're thinking about doing this, it is pretty messy. Even though they're doing all the work, things get messy, and you have to come in and work around afterwards and clean things up and sweep and shave off parts that didn't get shaved off and those kinds of things. But it is really an incredible experience, especially when I think of how slow everything else is that we have done. And so it was great to be on this step, be done with this step. Thanks for watching, everybody, and hope to see you next week. And that's all I've got to say about that. Bye.